Te reo ererangi o te mānia. This episode was produced in Otatahi by Plains Media, with support from New Zealand On Air.
Hello and welcome to Voices Unhindered. I'm Crystal Jenkinson. On this show, I give a unique perspective and listening ear to voices that often go unheard. I want everyone to know that you are not alone and that your voice and story matters. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Voices Unhindered with Crystal Jenkinson. I am speaking with local artist Bruce Denton about his experiences within the New Zealand Royal Air Force as a technician, his passion for painting, and his earliest memories of being in an aircraft with his father. Hi Bruce, it's so cool to have you here. Would you mind telling me about your childhood?
Yeah, I was born in Ōpōtiki, and when I was about 8 or 9 months old, my parents moved to Timaru. I've got a very vague memory of something very noisy and with windows and looking down at the ground. And my mum told me that my father had taken me flying when I was about 12 or 13 months old.
Whoa.
Yeah. And we used to go flying quite a bit.
And you remember that vaguely?
Yeah, very vague memory of it, yeah. We used to go flying quite a bit. When I was about 6 years old, I helped stitch the wings of a tiger moth together. It's done with a big brick-covered aircraft. Yeah, they've all got to be stitched.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they're glued and stitched to hold it all together. I helped them stitch the wing, and the guy that was doing it gave me 1 shilling to do it. And
How old were you, sorry?
I would have been about 6.
Oh, wow.
So 1956. A shilling in those days, it would have been roughly about $10 now,
Yeah.
you know. So it was a hell of a lot of money for a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
You know, and I've always, so ever since I've had this real interest in flying, and I've always sketched and done drawings and sketches. And I think about age of 10 or 11, we went up to Tolaga Bay to visit my mum's parents. And I used to play with the young Maori kids from the Ngāti Porou tribe. I remember my grandfather trying to teach me how to draw circles and straight lines.
Oh.
And not long before my mother died in 2018, I think it was, she was 91. I asked her, where did all this art thing come from that's stuck in me? And she said, oh, Dad was an artist in his own right. And he's got some paintings in the Gisborne Art Gallery.
Oh.
So I thought, oh.
Did you know about this?
No, I didn't. Didn't have a clue.
He didn't tell you. That's funny.
And I knew my father had been in the Air Force during World War II.
Yeah.
I found he applied in 1942. He was accepted in 1944, and he went through navigator training. And he was about to be shipped overseas when the war ended. From what I'm thinking of, he must have seen some action somewhere, which I can't find any record of. Because I remember when I was young seeing bullet wounds in one of his legs, and when he was in his 60s, they took a piece of shrapnel out of one of his kidneys. So he had to have seen action somewhere, sometime.
Do you mind me interrupting for a little bit?
Yeah.
Did he talk about his experiences?
No, I knew nothing about it, apart from the fact that he liked to go flying every now and again. That was all.
Do you think that's kind of related to some trauma there?
Oh, I probably was, yeah. I mean, although I was a ground tradesman in the service, I saw some things that I didn't really want to see. and you get a trauma from those. And you don't notice it at the time, and not until many years later that you get it,
Yeah.
For me, the earthquakes triggered it.
Oh, I see. Yes.
And when I was down at the gallery one day, we were having an art competition, and I got talking to a young lady there who was using a walking stick to get around, and I asked her, what's the walking stick? And she said she was in the Palms when the earthquake hit, and it all fell in on top of her. And she got a very severely injured back from it. So her and I basically helped each other through the trauma. She started calling me granddad after a while. So, but I've been sketching, drawing just about all my life. In downtimes when I was in the service, if there was nothing to do, I was either reading or sketching. So that's basically where all that comes from. And when I went through divorce in 1994, 95.
Oh, that's when I was born.
Hey?
That's when I was born.
I moved around quite a bit. I got made redundant around about that time as well. So I moved around the country on the back of a motorbike looking for work. And when I was in Nelson, my sister took me to a art show, an art exhibition thing, and I met a lady who was very crippled by arthritis. With her hands curled up, she was tucking the brush between her knuckles to paint. And my sister had taken some of my sketches with her. And this lady said, "Why aren't you painting?" So she loaned me some colours, gave them to me basically, some colours and some watercolours, and gave me a brief rundown on how to use them, and I've never looked back.
That's cool.
So, yeah, even my kids can remember me sketching and that sort of thing, But I lived in Nelson for a while until I got made redundant from working for BP. And I came down to Christchurch and worked for Aviation Support Services for a while, without stuff that was outsourced from Air New Zealand, until all that fell to pieces.
Just back to your childhood, do you mind me asking, was it natural for you to want to be a aircraft technician?
Yeah. I remember my father, when I joined, he said, you made a declaration when you were 9 that you were going to join the Air Force.
Oh, so you had already said it.
Yeah, I was 16 when I joined, and when I look back at it, I was way too young.
Yeah.
I should have waited a year before I joined.
Why do you say that now, looking back?
That's just looking back on what things were. I was very immature.
Yeah. 16's an immature age, but...
Yeah, 16. They wanted you to turn 17 through the year, somewhere in the year. And there was another guy who was 16 as well, but his 17th birthday was in April, and mine was in June. But I've got to say, in that first 6 months, I grew up so fast. I sort of lost a bit of my childhood in a way.
Yeah, and do you mind going into detail a bit more about how you lost your childhood and how you grew up so fast? What were the things that...
Well, everybody was a lot older than me.
Yeah.
I think the next youngest would have been 19, 20.
Yeah.
And the two of us were the youngest. And of course, we sort of got bullied a bit, because of it. And I learnt to fight back. Mm-hmm. And then we had to go through weapon training. Yeah. And got some real scares there, people doing the wrong thing and, but I enjoyed using a machine gun.
What was your training like? Do you mind me asking?
Training?
Yeah, training for...
It was very thorough, I'll say that for it.
Like, what were the things you learned from it?
Oh, we had to learn to be soldiers, basically.
Yeah.
It gave me a lot of discipline.
Yeah. Like, you arrived really early today.
Yeah, this the self-discipline that I got from it has helped me through this trauma with my neck.
Yeah.
It's hung around for a while.
Yeah.
And I think one of the better things I did when I left is instead of hanging around like I saw a lot of them doing, staying with their mates and going to all the reunions and all this sort of thing, I cut it off completely and went somewhere else. The main reason being is that in my last 2 years of service, there were people who left before me, and they were in their 30s. I encountered at least 4 of them went dead with heart attacks because they wanted to be with their mates all the time and they couldn't. You know, so I didn't want that. So
You mean like you always have to be away from family? Is that what you mean?
No,
Or
it was the camaraderie that you get in the Air Force and the military. These people wanted to keep it up when they left, and they couldn't handle being separated from people they got on well with and all this sort of stuff. You know?
You mean they got really attached to
Yeah, you
their
do.
job
You get
and
very
the people
attached
you're with?
to people you work with and you experience similar traumas with.
I see what you mean,
It's a very much a military thing that you get.
like you're together all the time, kind of like a family.
Yeah. And I just separated. That's it. Gone. I'm no longer there. And it's only in the last few years that I've started to even think about that sort of thing.
You mean you just shut the door when you left that job? You just shut the door to kind of the relationships there and the life there.
I just shut the door on.
Was there a reason for that? You just kind of
I didn't want to go through worrying about what's going on.
yeah.
And like I saw a number of people who had heart attacks, you know, so I didn't want to see that. I didn't want to do that. And the other thing the Air Force taught me was to be adaptable. So I was able to adapt pretty near any situation. I mean, I've adapted to this one.
Yeah, amazing.
So it's a. I don't know. It's I got sent a list. They want to know if some of the guys that I was in with wanted to arrange a reunion, and I said no. But I got sent a list of all the people that I joined the Air Force with, and what they're doing now.
Oh yeah.
50% of them were dead.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Do you know? Is that just from what do you
I have
think?
no idea what
Yeah.
you know why, but that list I saw in many ways gave me a shock.
And they weren't necessarily that old, eh?
No, a lot of them weren't out. Well, I don't consider them old. They're a lot older than I am now, even now. But then again, I'm 75 soon. My daughter reminded me of that the other day.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah. I just, you know.
Do you mind me asking, what do you think, like what was the most challenging part of being part of the Air Force for you? What did you find hard? Like you talked about things that you didn't want to see, and you don't have to say them if you don't want to, but.
The hardest part for me was, in many ways, looking beyond the service. It's very insular, but I have always had a tendency to look beyond, and that was the hard part for me, seeing what was going on in the outside world and thinking, why are some of these people I work with so bloody stupid? You know, it's just how it seemed to come about. I used to get teased and that for reading and sketching all the time, you know, but it didn't bother me that much.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it may be different now, but along the way you met people who are bullies in high rank. You know, they bullied you around and that sort of thing.
Is that part of the culture there?
It's very much part of the culture.
Yeah.
And I had difficulty dealing with that. There were at least twice in my memory that I told some senior ranking officers they were idiots.
Yeah.
You know.
Did you get punished?
Oh yeah, I didn't get promoted.
Yeah.
I mean, that's me. I'm different. My daughter studied psychology at university, and she's got a degree in psychology and teaching.
Oh yeah. That's an interesting mix.
Yeah, and she's she's in Wellington working for Spark as a project manager. But she reckons that I'm somewhere on the autism spectrum.
Oh yeah,
because of the way the way I deal with people. And
that's not a bad thing.
no, I mean you'll find most artists are in that area, that sort of thing too.
Yeah. No, your artwork is amazing.
Thank you. To me, it's just artwork, something I do to stop myself going into depression.
Yeah, and do you mind me asking about that? Like, did any of the people you worked with in the Air Force, did a lot of them, I don't know, some of them face depression and things like that? Like, was that something like mental illness or something?
Well, I don't know. I've never asked or even bothered to
Or even
look.
your dad, did you kind of observe that he struggled with
Dad had
PTSD or anything?
I think he had some sort of PTSD, but he had some health problems as well.
Yeah.
He used to get very angry if things didn't go his way.
Yeah.
That sort of thing, But my dad was my dad. He was a good father. He used to take me fishing quite a lot. And I remember him and one of my uncles getting really upset when I went up there, up on top of the Rangitata River, fishing. We were looking for salmon. And they hadn't seen anything all day, and I'd been tramping around the bush because I love the bush and the birds. And I came out and I asked if I could fish, and they loaned me a fishing rod, and I hauled in a 12-pound salmon. And they hadn't picked up anything all day.
That's funny.
So that's the way things go, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's September last year. We went back up to that area and scattered Mum and Dad's ashes in that area.
Oh, yeah.
And the painting I did it. The first painting I did since I came out of hospital was a painting of that whole area. It's not a very big painting, but I think it's in the blue one there.
The blue one.
Yeah.
Do you want me to open it? Or
You can have a look if you want. It's on display in the Brighton Art Gallery right now. That's me in uniform.
Oh, yeah. Nice looking young man, eh?
Yeah, well, I was 36 when that photo was taken.
Were you just about to leave?
Yeah, I wasn't far
Yeah.
from leaving the service, yeah.
Yeah.
That was the very first colour picture I'd done, and my son wanted to draw something with these felt pens, and that's what I did. He was at the Stockport Bridge, and he said one of the German aircraft went under the bridge.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So, he was running away from the British fighters. Believe it or not, that's Elvis Presley from the movie Charo.
Oh, okay.
In the movie, he was required to grow a beard.
Yeah, that's probably why I don't recognise.
Yeah.
You just think of it.
Oh,
Yeah, that's good, Ronald.
Marilyn Monroe. Leonard Cohen.
Oh, I thought it was Ronald Reagan.
No,
It looks like him.
they do. Yeah, you put the two of them
it's
side by side. They did look very much alike.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What led you to leave the Air Force?
Basically, my time was up.
Oh, yeah.
I'd done 20 years, and I really didn't want to do any more.
But you could have, eh?
I could have, yeah, very much could have, but I really didn't want to.
Did a lot of them stay?
Oh, yeah.
Was that were you influenced by what they were doing, or were you just like,
No.
I'm out of here after
No,
20 years?
it's just I want out of here.
Yeah.
I've had enough. So the time came up and I decided that's it.
Did you have a family?
Yeah, I was married then.
And how often did you see?
I had, my daughter was the first one born. She was born in Blenheim and my son was born in Auckland.
Yeah, and did you miss a lot of their lives because you were in there?
Little bits and pieces of it, yeah.
And do you kind of look back and think you wished you kind of were around a bit? I know that it's easy to say that.
There weren't that many gaps.
Yeah.
There was one or two gaps. But where it was worse was when I went through divorce. And I wasn't there for my daughter in particular, her teenage years. I mean, she used to ring me up and tell me what she was doing, what boyfriend she was going with and all that sort of thing. But she wouldn't tell her mother.
This week on Voices Unhindered, I'm speaking with local artist Bruce Denton about his 20 years serving within the New Zealand Royal Air Force as a technician, his passion for painting, and his earliest memories of being in an aircraft with his father.
Came down here to Christchurch for work, and I had a flat not far from the airport, and my kids both came down with their mum while she looked for work down here in Christchurch. And my daughter left home, I think when she was in her 20s. And I've always tried to stay in contact with her.
Yeah.
And we did become quite close. I think we still are. But as she said, there's no way we could live together anymore. We'd kill each other. Because we got two totally different views of the world, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But where I'm living right now came about because my son asked me to take up the lease because that's where him and his mum were living. Mm. She wanted to go to Timaru, and he said, I don't want to.
Oh, yeah.
She said, I don't like the guy she's going with, so I don't want to go to Timaru. Mm. And so I picked up the lease with the idea was when he leaves home, I'll find somewhere else to live. But unfortunately now the rent levels have gone out of reach.
Yeah.
You know, so I've basically got caught in the rent trap. And but he left home. He moved when my daughter's relationship broke up. He went with my daughter and to live with my daughter to help her pay the mortgage on her house. And he went through, like I did, several girlfriends. And then he met a lady from Canada, and he's now married to her over in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
So that's where he's living now in Canada. My daughter's in Wellington working for Spark.
Yeah.
But when they sold their house, they insisted on paying me back for the loans I'd given them over the years.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't really want it back, you know. You can, you know, it's your money, you keep it, you know. But they insisted on paying me back, and I used that money to buy the mobility scooter.
Oh, that's nice.
You know, you know, if I didn't buy it, I would have gone nuts.
Yeah.
You know,
it's too hard to get around.
You know, and because when I was in hospital, they took my driver's license off me.
Oh.
Because I couldn't walk, I couldn't feel my feet, you know, that sort of thing.
Makes
and
sense.
So I made another attempt, and they said no. And it was on the third attempt they let me have my license back.
Oh, yeah.
So in June this year, I've got to go in and get my license renewed anyway.
Oh, cool.
That may cause a bit of a problem. But yeah, no, I've got the car and the mobility scooter. I'm a member of the Ashburton Aviation Museum.
Yeah.
So I go down there as often as I can. I'd used to help them out, but I can't anymore because I just can't get around properly. But that's pretty much a life, really.
Yeah. Do you mind me asking, going back to your job that you used to do, being an aircraft technician, what training did you have to do for?
Oh, we had to learn all the systems on the aircraft.
Yeah, and was it easy for you to learn?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't classroom learn very well at all. I'm one of these. I'm a practical person. I like to do it there on the spot.
Yeah.
If they give me drawings and this is how it works, I want to go out and try it.
Yeah, I see.
You know, the other problem is with the Air Force too. Everything's numbers, and I have what's called dyscalculia.
Oh, yeah.
I can't read numbers properly. It's very slowly getting back there, but when I was at school, because I couldn't even add or subtract properly, I I was labelled dumb and shoved at the back of the class and ignored
Wow.
when it came to that sort of thing,
That's terrible.
Yeah, and it got picked up by another artist, and they go, "What are you doing?" When I was trying to write a number down.
Mm.
And the trouble is, everything in the Air Force is numbers.
Yeah.
And I struggled with that. A lot of it I faked, obviously. And then when the pocket calculators came out, hideously expensive for the time, I went and bought one.
Oh.
And that helped enormously.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was a struggle for that sort of thing. But what happens with the trade I was in, you do a lot of classroom work and then you take it out onto old retired aircraft and taught how to do things with them. Like how to fix the hydraulic systems, how to fix the undercarriage, how to patch any holes in them, that sort of thing.
Wow.
And that part of it I did fairly well. It was the theory sides of it that I struggled with.
And just growing up, back to like when you said you were shoved at the back of the class and called dumb, did you always know that you weren't dumb? Like inside you knew that you were smart, but like did that affect your self-esteem, or did you just not even care what they said? You knew that you were...
To be honest, I didn't care what they said.
That's cool.
I enjoyed classes like in the old-fashioned metalwork.
Oh, yeah.
We got taught how to make horseshoes and how to shoe a horse. They don't do that anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
When it came to school certificate, and in those days you had to pass maths and English, and I didn't pass either. But I passed with I was told very high marks in technical drawing and technical practice.
Oh, wow.
And the technical drawing one was, we were given one of the tests was you were given a picture and you had to copy it.
Oh.
But it had to be expanded. I did that and I was accused of tracing it.
Really? That's how good you were at it.
Yeah. So I said, I didn't trace. I said, I can prove it to you. So they gave me another picture, and while two teachers watched me, I did exactly what I'd done before.
Oh.
They go, oh, okay.
Do you feel like you have like one of those minds that like you see something and then you can just draw it?
No, I've got a weird mind, actually. It hops and skips and jumps all over the place.
Did you have ADHD growing up or anything?
Probably,
like that?
yeah. I think, to be honest, when I look back at my primary schooling and early secondary schooling, I think I would have been diagnosed ADHD these days. The military discipline has helped a lot because I think if I hadn't have gone into the military, I'd either be in prison or dead.
Yeah.
The other things that didn't help was I struggled with asthma and stuff as well. But I was able to hide it for quite a long time when I was in the Air Force. So, yeah, it's...
Did you struggle with asthma all your life, or was it just...
Yeah, I was born with it. And Mum was saying she'd never, ever heard of asthma until I was born.
Oh, wow.
And I found out sometime afterwards that I knew my father's father had died in 1945, but I didn't know why. And I've since found out he died because of asthma.
Oh, wow. I never knew you could die because I used to have asthma as a kid, because I was living in a smoker's home.
Dad smoked heavily too. So.
Yeah, I don't think that helps at all. No. Once I got out of the house, the mouldy house and the smoking, and went to my grandparents' house, I think my breathing was fine. And I always kept fit and stuff, but it was still an issue.
Yeah. I've always tried to keep fit. But just recently, I was on, what do you call it, prednisone.
My grandma used to take that.
Yeah, for quite a long time.
I don't know what that's for. What is it for?
It's a steroid. It's a cortisosteroid, and
What does it do?
it's used for all sorts of things.
Yeah.
In my case, it was asthma, and it opens your lungs up to help you breathe.
It's a weird name. That's why I was always like, what is that? Like,
Yeah. It's a cortisosteroid, and it can be used for pretty much all sorts of things. And I was on it for a very long time. It causes things like osteoporosis, glaucoma.
really?
Yeah,
You mean these are the, like...
they're the side effects.
Oh, my grandma had osteoporosis.
Yeah, I've got it too because of that.
Did you want to stop taking it? Or
I have stopped taking because a few years back, I can't remember how long ago it was, they came up with an injection, what they called a biologic injection. And biologic ones are very specific. They'll treat certain conditions and they can be aimed at those conditions. And it's an injection you stick in your belly every 28 days. And it's taken me clean off prednisone, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
I've heard of others can be used for things like diabetes and stuff like that. So, yeah. But, yeah, to me it was a miracle drug.
Oh, yeah.
And I did say to one of the nurses at Burwood once, I've almost defeated the thing that's bugged me all my life, only to have my body fall apart on me.
Yeah. Did you have serious breathing problems growing up? Like, you had to take a inhaler and all that?
Oh, yeah. I
A
still
lot.
use the inhaler every now
Oh,
and again.
wow.
Yeah. I think I've still got mine in my pocket.
Oh. Because some people grow out of it, and then some people...
Yeah, some do, some don't. And in my case, I didn't.
But you didn't smoke, eh?
No, never smoked. My dad was a heavy smoker, but he never smoked around us kids.
Well, that was very considerate.
You
of
know,
him.
I often used to see him in the garden with a cigarette hanging out the corner
yeah.
of his mouth and that,
Yeah. Bruce Denton then goes on to speak about his artwork, which he has collected over the years in his book. His artwork has also received recognition by various organisations.
Yeah, all of my paintings have a story
Big
behind them.
stories.
They all have a story. There was one in there's a triptych I did. I emailed an author in the United States, Mercedes Lackey was her name, and I emailed her to ask if I could use the title of one of her books, Ill Met by Moonlight. And her reply was, go ahead. She says, after all, Shakespeare invented it.
Oh, yeah.
So that wasn't a problem. But I sent a photo of what I'd done. It's a triptych's 3 paintings that as you go across the painting, they tell a story. And I sent a photo of it to her, and she replied back. She said, I'll have to try and remember you for a book cover.
Yeah.
So, come here, you. I'm not sure exactly where it is.
You might know.
Oh, that one's the story of Swan Lake, and it's a real place in Germany.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, and it's Neuschwanstein Castle that everybody knows, the fairy tale castle from Ludwig, but it's actually over. I moved it around in the landscape. It's actually here, and this castle called Schwangau actually sits on the shoreline just about there.
Oh.
So I moved it around. But you see, the girl, her reflection is a swan, but it didn't come off quite so well with these ones here. They got the swans and their reflections are humans. It didn't come off quite so well.
Still amazing.
Yeah. That one, Griffin. I used a griffin's a half bird, half cat, or usually a lion.
Wow.
And I used the wings off a Kia.
Oh.
And I sort of painted the Kia's face, but put ears on him like a cat, and the rest of him's a snow leopard. I've done all sorts of things. It's based on a David Eddings story, whereas the knight had been exiled, and he came back to the city where he'd been exiled from at night and in the rain, so nobody would know who it was. But that one is a repaint, basically, of another one I did earlier on. And I painted it around about the time of Brexit. It's King Arthur coming back to take his sword.
Oh.
Its actual title is Once and Future King. And that one is all the 1001 Arabian Night stories.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
And I used this bit here, this Scheherazade telling the stories. And I used my daughter posed for it.
Oh. You said that growing up you weren't, like, good at English, but then you read a lot.
I read a lot, yeah. I won't say good at English, but I understand and speak English, but
yeah,
I don't understand the bits of it.
the theory parts.
The theory about it, yeah, I don't understand that at all. That's painted of a story that my dad told. He went fishing once in some place, I can't remember where it was, but every time he tossed his lure out, fly fishing, the fantails would dive after the fly that he was. Like I say, I do all sorts of stuff. That was the girl that calls me granddad, and that's was hanging up in the botanical gardens in Hamilton. So I used that and put London and everything in the background as a steampunk painting.
Oh.
And that's why I called it My Lady's Conveyance.
Oh.
And that one's resting on just inside my door. That was one of the ones that was supposed to be on display in the library, but it never got there. I've been delving into Celtic history.
Yeah.
I'm a descendant of the Celts through both my father and my mum. My mum's grandfather was a Scotsman.
Oh, yeah.
Came to New Zealand from the land clearances in the early 1800s.
Oh.
The English lords wanted more land for their sheep, so they kicked all the crofters off.
Oh.
And my great-grandfather was one of them. He had very little use for the, how he called it, the British aristocracy.
Yeah.
And I remember my auntie, my mum's eldest sister, died. She was a month short of 100 years old when she passed away. And I said to Mum, why didn't she hang on? She said, I think she chose to die then because she doesn't want...
Oh, a letter from the Queen?
She doesn't want a letter from that silly old bat in London. That's how she put it.
Oh, yeah.
The trouble was I had to, you had to swear allegiance to the Queen when you joined the military.
That's right, yeah.
Well, I was in a crowd and I never mentioned her name once.
Yeah.
I won't say I'm anti-royalist, I just...
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Just don't want them around.
Yeah, I don't worship them either.
No.
Oh, it was so interesting speaking to you. I love your background and...
The trouble is you get me talking and I just won't stop.
No.
I've enjoyed this.
Oh, me too.
Showing off my paintings and...
Yeah, no. Yeah, my granddad, he was like that. He loved talking to people and talking about his time in the army and the war, because he got moved around and went from London to during the time of the...
Some of my instructors I had in the Air Force were ex-RAF, and some of them were mechanics during the Battle of Britain.
Wow.
Yeah, some of my instructors.
Wow.
So...
Wow.
Like I say, I was born 1950 and it's only 5 years after the end of the war.
Yeah.
And the where I lived in Timaru, we had quite a few veterans from the war there. You know, It was common for me to see people with missing arms and things like that, you know. We had one guy who was, I think he'd gone completely off the rails.
Because of the war?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. When I was quite young, I actually met Charles Upham, New Zealand Double Victoria Cross, World War II. I met him when I was very young. I didn't have a clue who it was. All it was a grumpy old man who chased me out of his orchard.
It's funny. Thank you for listening to Voices Unhindered. It's great hearing from my listeners. Reach out with questions and comments through Insta or Facebook. Just search for Voices Unhindered. I'm interested to know what other topics and voices you'd like me to bring on the show. Join me every Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. on Plains FM 96.9. You can find past episodes at plainsfm.org.nz and subscribe to Voices Unhindered on Spotify or Apple Podcasts to never miss an episode.